Welcome to episode 10 of Hello Newman Sports Pod. We got different camera set up. We have one of our things is not working today, so we're going the old camera on the laptop way. So might look a little closer. I can't. I apologize if we scare anybody at home. But I'm John. This is Jordan. We're going to talk. We're 2 days away from the NFL draft, and me and Jordan are huge. Besides being huge Steeler fans, we're huge kind of draft nicks, if you will. We kind of watch all the picks. It's usually traditional. Order some pizza and wings and watch the draft, and we do it every year, and this year should be no exception. And always interesting, Jordan. You know, we've seen some teams make some trades pre-draft. I think there's gonna, we're gonna go through. For sake of time, we're gonna make our predictions for the first 10 picks. So I apologize if your team's not in the first 10 picks. You're not gonna hear us guess who they're gonna take. We're gonna talk a little bit about that the draft right now. But for the sake of time, we're going to just do the 10 picks. Obviously, I think our first two are going to be, I think, are no-brainers. I think everyone in the world knows who those are going to be. And then it might change up from there. But, Jordan, we've seen, some teams make some pre-draft moves. And I also going to say I think there's going to be a lot of trades on draft night itself. I think people are going to trade back when maybe someone they wanted is gone and they want to just drop back. I think when someone's still on the board or someone wants, they're going to try to move up. So I think we're going to see some movement. I think we're going to see players get traded. Maybe you see Jimmy G get traded on draft night potentially. I mean, what do you think before we get into the picks, for just kind of an overview of how you see this draft playing out?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting year just in general. I think because you had a certain number of guys sit out, and I think it wasn't a normal year with COVID and kind of the protocols there. So I think a lot of teams' boards might look a lot different. So I think guys or teams might like certain guys a lot more than other teams who don't even have that guy on their board. So I think, like you said, you're going to see a lot of people kind of jump or trade up for a guy that they love and just don't really feel like risking them, falling later in the draft. But like you said with Jimmy G, I think people are talking with New England trading up for Fields or really anyone there. I think it's more likely they would just go after Jimmy G. I think some of the talk might be to kind of lure San Francisco into getting rid of him because they've said they want to keep him. So I really don't see New England jumping up to get Fields. I know they've said and Belichick's guy is Jimmy G. We've known in the past. And I think even if they don't trade him, I think he ends up being a Patriot down the line somehow. I just think there's too much interest on both ends. So I think, but like you said, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of movement I think we're going to see just because the difference in evaluations. And I think without really having a combine, everyone ran a 4.3 basically. So I think you don't really have
I still ran a 4.7.
Yeah.
I just want to be honest.
Yeah.
The other thing too, I think you know this as well as I do. A lot of time pre-draft, you see a lot of smoke screen. A lot of teams saying one thing to make the other teams maybe think something. I think something you said is true. I'm actually, and I don't know, this is just a hunch or a gut instinct feeling, if you will. I think the Patriots and the Niners have a deal already in place for Jimmy G going back to Foxborough. I don't know. I didn't hear anyone else say that. I don't
know if it's
feeling.
A deal. I think there's probably at least some understanding, we'll work something out, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think there's too much interest, and there's really been too little chatter about Jimmy G, especially when you move up to the pick they did. It's pretty obvious, they're going quarterback. So there's no use to pay two guys like they would have to. So I think, like you said, there's probably something already going on or some type of understanding.
Yeah, Shanahan, I don't know if you've heard some of his quotes, kind of some odd stuff he said. He said he'd be comfortable with 5 quarterbacks on the roster. Someone asked him about the draft, and he's like, we don't even know if we're all going to be alive. Sunday was a weird sort of quote. Just the master of smokescreen. I really think they sort of have a verbal deal, if you will, in place to move Jimmy G. I don't think they're moving up to get someone going to sit a year. I could be wrong. One of the telling comments Shanahan said was that, while as much as they like Jimmy G, he has been hurt the last 2 years, and they want some. It hurts when he's not on, when they don't have a starter on the field. It was sort of not a knock, maybe a little bit of a sly, kind of a low key knock that he can't stay healthy. Basically, is what Shanahan was saying, and they're picking a quarterback. They haven't even denied that. It's just, which one, and we'll get into that more when they're on the clock, when we're making our picks, what we think they're going to do. This quarterback class. Let's talk about the quarterback class in general. I'm not a huge. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a franchise type of player. And who knows? There's some people who think he's actually overrated, as crazy as that might sound. But none of these other guys really. Trey Lance is very interesting to me. I like what I saw on tape, but he's very inexperienced. He's a guy that most people feel like he's not. Whoever picks him, he's not going to play this year. He's going to learn, but he might be the second best quarterback, and I don't know if that's good or bad with this draft. I don't love it in terms of the quarterback end. I think there's always, when you hear about 4 or 5 first round quarterbacks, there's always 2 or 3 busts almost all the time. And so there's going to be, unless this is a crazy draft, there's going to be 2 or 3 of these quarterbacks that we're talking about right now that, are the Josh Rosens, are the Ryan Leafs, are the Blaine Gabberts that were picked high and didn't pan out. And we're gonna talk about that with some of our selections as well. A lot of decent wide receivers in this draft, and pretty balanced, compared to a lot of years. So it's going to be interesting. Some of your thoughts on what I said there.
I think quarterback wise, it's really, you have 2 guys in Lawrence, and I think Fields. I think it's just this weird skepticism around Fields has kind of come out of nowhere. I think, yeah, he can be inconsistent, but I think he's been that guy since he came to Ohio State. And I just don't think there's really any reason to doubt him like people are right now. I think him and Lawrence is clearly on a different field than everyone else. And I think, like you said, after that, it's kind of a crapshoot. I think Lance has the highest upside. He's got the size, and he runs really better than any other quarterback in the draft. But outside of him, Mac Jones looks okay to me. He makes the throws. He looks good in the pocket, but he really doesn't wow me, and he doesn't nothing to warrant a top 10 pick. And I think really after him, it gets even worse with, you have Trask and I think Mond, and none of them really jump out to me. I think they all, not to kind of put a damper on their career without it starting, but really look like career backup type players. I just think, to me, it's really Lawrence and maybe Fields, and then the rest are really just kind of a shot in the dark. I think Wilson shows flashes. I think he makes exciting throws, but if you really watch his tape, he's got more time than almost any other quarterback I've ever watched tape on. He waits in the pocket 5 seconds, and then he breaks out, and it's, he is throwing 40, 50 yards downfield on the run, but they're really not NFL throws. They're not realistic throws. I don't, that play might happen here or there in a game, but you're not going to consistently beat NFL defenses like that. And I just think there's been this so much hype around these flashy type throws that it's kind of overshadowing, the real, intangibles when it comes down to playing quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, the Jets are in love with Zach Wilson. I don't think he'd be certain other teams' number 2 quarterback off the board. And they really, I'm not a Jets fan, obviously, but Jets really have to get this quarterback pick right. I don't know if that's the answer. They believe it is.
Yeah.
This is the kind of pick, that can cost the GM their job, because if he's worse than Sam Darnold, and there's some people who believe that, then what did they do? Right? They actually downgraded rather than upgraded, and so much riding on drafts. People don't realize jobs hinge on this: head coaching, GM, front office folks, and I'd love to be in some of these war rooms even before draft day, as they discuss who they're going to take, and I'm sure there's differences of opinions and people arguing for their guy, or this is why we should do this and not this, and be some interesting conversations you could eavesdrop on. Look, the NFL's turned into a quarterback league, and that's why we're seeing guys get picked in the first round that in years ago wouldn't be picked in the first round. I think to the '84 draft, with Marino and how far he dropped, and this guy.
He was doing drugs, remember, in college, so Pittsburgh couldn't take him.
So you know what I mean. This is a guy that's like talent-wise, and so the game has evolved. The game has changed. We've seen running back. We talked about that on the last episode. Running back values have dropped to the point. They used to be higher picks, and now sometimes there's some drafts we don't even have one taken in the first round, which is crazy when you think about that. And
this year is interesting, I think, especially compared to last year. Last year was so filled with defensive talent. Really, the whole first round could have been defensive picks, and this year it almost flipped, where your top 10 picks almost can all be offensive players, and it's almost reasonable. So I think it's interesting. And even defensively this year, there's really no home run guy. I don't think there's a consensus one.
Micah Parsons is up there. He supposedly, I don't know. I'm not going to be honest with you. I don't know a ton about him other than, seeing film. I know he's a Penn State guy, linebacker. They're famous for cranking out some decent linebackers. His tape reads well. Every scouting report say he's going to be sort of that next pretty big time linebacker in the NFL. We'll see where he goes. I'm going to be honest with you. I got him in my top 10. Yeah. I won't say where yet for those listening, but we see a lot of consensus number ones. Parsons the number one linebacker, Lawrence obviously the number one quarterback, Sewell the number one offensive lineman, and you got Kyle Pitts, sort of a hybrid player who might arguably be the best player in this draft, including Trevor Lawrence. It's just Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback. A lot of people are saying that Pitts is overrated because, truthfully, he is going to be a wide receiver in the NFL, and all this, he's a tight end with wide receiver hybrid. It's not going to translate. I've heard some of the so-called experts talk about that he is good, very good, but he's being overdrafted because he's going to be looked at as a tight end with receiver skills. And a lot of people are saying he's going to wind up just being a wide receiver in the NFL. And based on that, we're praising him a little bit too much. I think he's a guy that, you could see someone maybe moving up to get him. Atlanta's going to have a decision to make, I believe, at 4 with him. I won't say who I take. My paper's right there. You might see it. But for those listening, I won't let that cat out of the bag just yet. I think it's going to be an interesting draft. I think you're going to see some trades. I think you're going to see picks traded. I think you're going to see some players go on the move. I read the other day that the Atlanta is shopping Julio Jones, which makes you think, are they taking Pitts? And they know they're taking Pitts, so Jones is expendable. All these questions that only they know for sure, but we can speculate and kind of guess and have fun doing it. And that's what we're going to do today, Jordan. So let's listen. Let's really. This is about 8 picks, right? Because I believe let's just make it easy. Lawrence and Zach Wilson will be the first 2 picks off the board. Lawrence to Jacksonville. Zach Wilson. The Jets are putting all their eggs in the Zach Wilson basket. And now we're at 3. And the Niners have moved up to get this pick. They pretty much, without saying it, are saying they're taking a quarterback. Early reports were that Mac Jones was their guy. I think that is nuts to trade up to 3 and take him. And so I'm starting to now believe, and this again, just feeling in the stomach type stuff. I'm starting to believe that Mac Jones was sort of a smoke screen. And I'm thinking they're thinking between Trey Lance and Justin Fields. I think the Mac Jones was just kind of to get people off the scent of who they really kind of wanted. Or I think maybe initially they were thinking Mac Jones, and then they realized, like, we can't take that guy at 3. We could have waited and probably got, moved up maybe the 8, 9, or 10 and get him if that's what we wanted to do. So I got them in their war room debating on Justin Fields or Trey Lance. And I might surprise you here, Jordan. I think the Niners are going to take Trey Lance.
I think before the trade, they knew who they were going with. I think that's the only reason or way you can jump up to 3 is if you're that confident in that player. And I think it has to be Fields. I don't think there's no other quarterback that I think warrants the number 3 pick with that played that consistently and has that much kind of backing him. I think it has to be Fields. I think I like Lance. I just don't think he's ready to step in and run that kind of offense right now. And like you said, I just don't see Mac Jones. It doesn't make sense really logistically to give up what they did for a guy they don't have to give up that much for. I think they could have easily moved up to 5, 6, or even 7, and we've seen other teams do that. So I think it has to be Fields. I think a lot of what they're saying, it's just very odd. It was heavily Mac Jones, and then as of late, it's Mac Jones or Trey Lance. I think it's just it's interesting. It's not Fields at all. So I think it has to be Fields. I think it's the only guy that makes sense to move up that high 4.
I will say this. If we're watching the draft Thursday night and the 49, that card gets brought up to Goodell or virtual, however they're going to do it, and he announces that pick, and it's Mac Jones, it's going to be very reminiscent the last time a Jones got overdrafted, and that was a couple years ago when Daniel went way too high. There's going to be something about the Joneses. If Mac Jones gets picked 3rd, I'm going to think right back to when the Giants.
It's funny. It is interesting though. At least this one, I like Mac Jones even more than Daniel Jones. He at least has numbers. So, but I agree. I don't like him at that pick. I think it would be interesting if they went and kind of surprised people and rolled with Jimmy G and took a guy like Pitts. I don't really see it.
It's not really a position of need when they got, they got Kittle. Now, some will argue, well, Pitts can be a wide receiver in San Fran. They have a guy, Deebo Samuel, but he just can't stay healthy.
I don't think that's the case. I just think unless that's, you know what I mean? Like you said, he is, I think, talented
how crazy. It's a great point by you. I didn't think it. That they could be hoodwinking everyone. Hey, we're taking a quarterback, and they really just want Pitts. He's just that good of a player, and they're like, hey, we're going to give Jimmy one more year and roll with him and add Pitts to the arsenal. And who knows, right? Who knows? We've seen some crazy stuff on draft night. So you went with Fields. I went with Lance. Let's go to the next pick. This one is interesting, too, with the Atlanta Falcons at 4. They got Matt Ryan under contract for 2 more years. I don't think they're going quarterback. And on my draft board, I still have Fields available. And I'm not having the Falcons take them. I'm having them take someone else before I give my pick. I'm going to let you actually do. We'll alternate. But I'll just speak to this pick is going to be interesting because in both of our mocks so far, we have some guys that are still on the board they could select. But Matt Ryan's on a contract for 2 years, so without giving it away, I will just tell you I don't have him taking a QB. But go ahead. How do you think?
I don't either. I think they go Pitts. I think he's just too talented at where they are to not take him. I think he just fits anywhere. I think even the argument, he might not be as good when he plays wide receiver. He was covered by corners for a good amount, and Florida really didn't play a super pro style offense. He was really slotted out, at least slot, a majority of the time. So, and we've seen Atlanta really utilize the tight end, obviously with Tony Gonzalez and then Austin Hooper. So I think he kind of fits into what they want to do. I don't know if they're going to make one more push, but I think that's a guy with the willingness to move on from Julio. You've got Calvin Ridley. I think bringing in Pitts, it's probably the biggest building block you can get in the draft to start an offense without getting a quarterback. So I just think there's too much talent and potential. And he doesn't have to be a number one receiver there. He doesn't have to move out because you have Ridley and Jones. And I don't think Jones will probably be there during the year, but you already have that legit wide receiver that takes the pressure off him. So I think it's just too much to pass on there.
Yeah, I don't have them taking a quarterback. I think they're going to roll with Ryan for another year or two. So on my sheet, I wrote down Kyle Pitts or trade down. I think they're either going to take Kyle Pitts, or if they really don't want him or like him, and they know someone else does, and the phone rings, and they get an offer they can't refuse, to steal a line from my favorite movie, I think they entertain it. They don't love Pitts enough to, like, if they get some assets, trade assets, I think they trade out of the 4 spot if it's not Pitts for them. Maybe with a team that's in the top 10 still, they drop back a little bit, maybe still get a guy they highly rank and some extra picks. I think they need some of those extra
I think
picks.
you might see that with throughout the draft is teams that aren't really looking to trade, but they might get offers they really can't turn away from. I just think you might have some teams that really want talent early and just can't really see missing out on those guys and might be willing to give up a little bit more to convince teams that don't traditionally or don't really want to trade out.
So we both have Pitts, but I have that little caveat that they might trade out of that spot if they don't really, really, really love Pitts. They might just take the assets and a different player. We got the Bengals at 5, and it's the Bengals, so anything is possible here. I think it's my turn to pick a guy first. I think they got their quarterback in Burrow, a guy I really like. I hate to say it because they're in the Steelers division. I think they got their guy at quarterback. I think they want to protect him. But I could see the Bengals here getting sort of Bengal-esque and maybe taking one of the big-time wide receivers and just say, give Burrow a weapon. I think the smart play, if the Bengals are going to be smart, is Penei Sewell to beef up front to give Burrow more time to make plays with the guys he has. T. Higgins had a good rookie year, and they can always take this draft is wide receiver heavy, so their next pick could be another receiver. I think they're going to go Penei Sewell to protect what they perceive as their franchise quarterback. But it wouldn't shock me if they did a Bengals thing and just went some like Lamar Chase or some direction like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I went Sewell. I think he's by far the best lineman in the draft. And a lot of people have him as kind of a generational type guy. And after seeing Burrow go down with a knee injury, with apparent, lack of protection, I think they kind of have to address it. And like you said, they have T. Higgins, who had a good rookie year. There's really no reason to, I think, push him down farther down the depth chart. Let him get more reps, especially with a healthy Burrow. So I think Sewell's kind of the obvious pick. But like you said, I think there's a lot of talent at receiver, and you can fall in love with guys too. And I think the Bengals, it could be, but I think the pick should be Sewell. And I think if Atlanta trades out and someone trades in for quarterback, I think if Pitts is there, I think you could easily see them take Pitts, which I think is a little bit of a different situation because I think he's more of a generational talent than the other receivers. But I think Sewell's probably the likely pick.
Yeah, don't forget, we're doing these picks based on these teams today where they are. There's most likely these aren't going to be the exact order of teams the way they draft. So we're basing it fact that there's going to be no trades.
Yeah.
But I think there will be.
I
So
think, yeah, your 5, 6, 7 picks, I think are all, at least one of them are likely to be traded just because whatever quarterback doesn't get picked, I think someone that really likes that guy that thought they'd be gone will
yeah,
move
and right
up.
now on my board, Fields is still available. On your board, Trey Lance
Yeah.
is still available. So someone may move up to get those guys if it's either way. You know what I mean? How it plays out. So we sort of both went with the safe bet, banking on the Bengals being smart for a change with Sewell. The next pick can be really interesting. I'll go first. It's the Dolphins. Many mock drafts that I've read have them taking Chase out of LSU at receiver. They got a guy really liking Devontae Parker. So I think they're going to go what I think is the best defensive player on the board. I got them taking Micah Parsons. I think they're going to be in this draft is wide receiver heavy. I think they might trade back up into the first round later and get one of those wide receivers that might have dropped down or slipped down the board a little bit that is still perceived sort of number one or two guy. I think they go with the linebacker. I think that they want to beef up, the defensive side of their game. I don't think, some people have Miami going out and maybe, getting one of those quarterbacks that have slipped if they're not in love with Tua. I think that's a little. I don't see them doing that. I'm not saying they love Tua. Maybe the bloom's a little bit off the rose. But man, if they take a quarterback at 6 after a draft where they just took Tagliavoa, I'd be shocked. Would be surprised. So I'm going to have them. I'm going to go a little crazy here. I'm going to have them take Micah Parsons, leave wide receivers on the board, and beef up their defense. With my rationale being like Parsons is legitimately one of the number one defensive players on the board and sort of a safe bet. Like most experts predict like he's going to be a very solid NFL productive linebacker.
I think you had it right the first time. I think it's Chase. I think he's too good. I think he's the best receiver in the draft. I think obviously sitting out didn't hurt or help his case, but I think the fact he's even considered at 1 without playing last year kind of shows you how highly he's ranked. I just think he stands out from the other receivers. He's kind of more complete than Waddle and Smith. So I think by sticking with Tua, you have to get kind of Tua that help. So I think they go receiver there. I think defensively they weren't too bad. And I agree. I do like Devontae Parker, but I think they've wanted Devontae Parker to have that big breakout year. And I just don't think they can keep waiting. And I don't think I think
he had a good year last year. I mean, I think he's solid.
But I think for the benefit of Tua, and if they're going to truly evaluate, what Tua is, you have to get, a true number one receiver. And I think I think Chase just fits too well there.
Yeah, well, we went off different exits on that one. Who knows? We both could be wrong, and they take a quarterback against what I said. We got the Lions at 7. I'll let you go. It's your turn to go first, but that's the Lions at 7.
I said it's in the air. It's either Smith or Waddle. I think whatever receiver they kind of like more. I think it's probably going to be Devontae Smith. I think I don't like him. I like Waddle more, but I think his production, I think Detroit really doesn't probably want to mess around with a guy with just potential. I think seeing what Smith did, winning a Heisman, I just think Detroit's kind of going to try and get the guy that can step in and be that guy right away, especially for a guy like Goff, who might not be the greatest quarterback, but he has gotten teams to the Super Bowl and he can be an NFL quarterback. So I think instead of getting a guy that has to kind of learn and grow, I think getting a guy that might be able to step in, he might not have high potential, but I think that can step in and be a crucial point of the offense.
Yeah. If the Lions do not take a wide receiver at this spot, I don't know what they're doing. It's probably their weakest position. They just lost Kenny Galladay, who went to the Giants, who arguably top 10 wide receiver in the league. They are definitely
Marvin
light.
Jones, I think, signed with
Yeah, he's
the
gone.
Jags.
Yeah, he's gone to. I'm not even sure I can name a wide
Yeah.
receiver on the Lions. This is a wide receiver pick. I got him taking either Chase or Waddle, whoever that front office likes. Chase is still available on my board, so he's not on yours. So that's why
Yeah.
you haven't taken Waddle. I have Chase and Waddle still on the board at this point, and I have the Lions taking one of them, whoever they like better. Number 8. This pick is difficult, and I'll go first here with the Carolina Panthers, where now Sam Darnold is, and they definitely have weapons already offensively with McCaffrey and a guy in DJ Moore that I like, so I really debated. This one had probably gave me, out of the top 10 picks, this one really kind of gave me the most difficulty. And I said, well, they made the move to trade Darnold. I don't think they're going wide receiver. I know they'll probably like some of them that are be on the board at this point. And I just said they're going to take a lineman to give Darnold some more time. They want to make the Jets look like they're wrong on Darnold. And I think they're going to go with what I perceive as the second best offensive lineman on the draft board, and Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. Again, this is I don't know. This is a pick for me that I could have went so many different ways. This is all just speculation. They could go just one of the potential superstar receivers, and I don't know. But I'm gonna give Slater to them. I think they go and they say, listen, let's pretend if Darnold's our guy, let's buy him some time. We already got McCaffrey here, DJ Moore. Let's keep him upright and let him make some plays. So that's why I went with Slater.
Yeah, I like Slater there, but I went with Surtain. I think he's the best corner on the board. I think offensively, I really don't think they're all too far behind. I think having a guy obviously like CMC, and then you have DJ Moore, who really started to kind of come into his own, and Robbie Anderson's still there too. So I think they don't need too much help offensively, and I think starting, the league is purely a passing league at this point. So I think getting kind of the best corner available isn't a bad pick at all at 8 too, because I think there's a lot of people that Surtain was supposed to go a lot higher. So I think it's very comfortable taking that guy. But I agree. I think Slater's easily could be picked there as well.
Yep. So it's your turn to go first, but let me announce who the team is. The Broncos at 9. This is another pick when I had to figure out who they were going to take. Got real interesting. I'm going to have a different player than you. I already know, because the player I have them taken is already off your board. So, they got Drew Lock. Looks like the love is gone there from what you're hearing, that they don't believe what they once thought he was the guy. Now they don't. But it's your turn to pick first.
Yeah.
So who do you see the Broncos?
I think it's tough. I think they could go quarterback here, and if I think they did, obviously if Fields gone, I would go probably Lance, but I don't think they do. I think they go Micah Parsons. I think he's not on, you already have him going. I think he's probably the best defensive player in the draft, and I think Von Miller is still good, but he is getting older, and he's had some injuries. So I think he's a good guy to kind of learn behind him and be impactful right away. But it is tough because I think, like you said, they are out on Drew Lock. I think it's pretty obvious. It's just I don't know if they pull the trigger yet or if they try for one more year. It's an interesting situation. Do they take, with my board, the best defensive player, or do they go with Lance and restart their offense? So I have them going defense, especially with Von Miller and kind of the rocky offseason he had. He didn't get in any trouble, but there was that kind of legal issue he had that never really got kind of resolved. It just somewhat vanished. So I think that's kind of their pick there.
I got him taking a quarterback, and it's the guy that's kind of slipped down the board you had going earlier. I think they go Justin Fields. I think he's still on my board. I think Elway is running out of time. He's getting a lot of pressure. Like, hey, you're one of the greatest quarterbacks, and you can't recognize quarterback
Yeah.
talent. What are you doing? And I think he sees Field there, and Mac Jones is a potential if he's still on the board. Although if I'm Denver, I'd take Fields over Mac Jones. But Parsons not a bad pick. I don't see them doing that, but I like your argument. I think Elway's going to take another crack at a quarterback here. And I think for me, it's going to be Fields because he's still on my board. He's not on yours. Now, on your board, Trey Lance is still
Yeah.
available here. And I'm going to be honest with you. If Trey Lance in the real draft
Yeah, I
is
think someone trades
yeah.
up.
If Trey Lance is still on the board at 9 when the Broncos are
Yeah.
picking, I think they go and get him. Here's another interesting thing. We talked about the Patriots, maybe reacquiring Jimmy G. If that deal is not agreed to, this is the area where, in either scenario on our draft board, whether it's Fields available on mine or
Yeah.
Trey Lance available on yours, this is where the Patriots
and
may try.
Jones
Yeah,
too.
Mac Jones, who Belichick and Saban are good buddies, and I'm sure Saban's probably said a lot of nice things about Mac Jones to Belichick. If any, this is the area where if the Patriots don't have a deal for Jimmy G, they can try to move into this spot to get any one of those 2 or 3 guys that are left. I don't think Jared Stidham's the answer, and I don't think
No.
Cam Newton is the answer.
No.
And I think they know it. I think that they're stopgap guys, and I think New England's looking for the next guy. Belichick is not a spring chicken. I don't know how much more he's going to coach. He's got to find that next guy if they're going to make any sort of one last run with Belichick calling the shot. So I got the Broncos taking Fields, but it could be the Broncos maybe moving back a couple, to 15, and the Patriots moving up to 10. And the Broncos may do that because they may feel that even at that 15th spot and getting an extra pick on top of that, they can still get a guy they probably even want. So we'll see. This is where I think the draft's going to get sort of real interesting. So our last pick we're going to make, just for it works out time wise too, and of course it's America's team, number 10, the Cowboys. All right, Jerry Jones has basically slobbered the last 3 weeks over Kyle Pitts. Unless he trades up, Kyle Pitts is not available on either one of our boards, so I don't see that happening. But you never know; crazier things have happened. It's your turn to pick with the Cowboys, and then I'll tell you who I see him.
Yeah, I went with J.C. Horn because Surtain wasn't there on my board. I don't know if it's the best pick there, but I think the Cowboys in the past fall in love with good corners early in the draft. I think he is. I like him more than Surtain. I think Surtain might be a bit of a letdown. I think there's a bit more hype than there's substance there, but I think Horn's done it, so I do like Horn there. But I think just the Cowboys' tendency to kind of go for young, athletic corners kind of fits what's available there.
Yeah, we're not far off. At this point in the draft, I have no corners taken yet. So the top two on most analyst boards are Horn or Surtain. I got them taking Surtain here. Like you said, they could take Surtain's not available on your board, so you got him taking Horn. I wrote both names down because they're both. Again, that's a situation where which one of the two that organization likes more, I think that's who they take. I think they go corner. They're not going to go, obviously, cornerback with the new Dak deal. They're not going to, Jerry's done some crazy stuff. When I was writing this pick down, I said, how crazy would it be because there's still, on my board, there's still some solid wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
Waddle, Chase may be available, Devonta Smith. How crazy would it be if Dallas took another wide receiver, maybe traded Amari Cooper? They're not going to do that. I got them taking corners. Their weakest link on the Cowboys. I think they were ranked worst at that position last year, and I think they go either Horn or Surtain, whoever they on their board they rank higher because they're both available. So again, I don't think this is actually going to be the order of the 10 teams. I think there's going to be someone trading up or someone trading out. But we don't know that ahead of time, so we got to make our picks based on those teams being there. I think obviously we're going to have some of these right, especially the first two.
Yeah.
But after that, we'll see. I think we're going to get some of these right. It'll be interesting now when we watch doing this show
Yeah.
when we have a little more right on it because knowing who we had them picking and seeing it actually whether it happens or not. I always enjoy the draft. I know you do too, Jordan. Our team, the Steelers, are at 24. There has been, I've read some things with having where if Fields was the slip and the Steelers could trade up and get him. I don't know about that. They got a guy in Haskins that from the same school.
I don't know necessarily Fields. I know, especially early with Lance. Yeah, there was interest early on. Pittsburgh doesn't often trade up, but I think if anyone, I think it would be Lance, but I don't think so. I don't know what they really do. I don't know if Najee Harris is even there at 24. I think he is looked like he might be there, but I think he might get picked up right before him or before it gets to Pittsburgh. So I don't know what they do. I think they likely go lineman. I just think it's a very Pittsburgh pick. And I think it's more valuable in the long run. And I think Pittsburgh typically drafts more for the long run than they do for kind of impact players now. But it'll be interesting just because it's not a typical lineman or corner pick for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it would have been more entertaining to think about trading up more quarterback had they not signed Haskins. I think that would have maybe there'd been a greater sense of urgency to do that. But on their draft boards in the year Haskins, he was their top rated quarterback. So I don't think they're going to trade up. I think they're gonna kick those tires and see what they got in Haskins before they ultimately decide they don't have the next quarterback after Ben on the roster yet. And so I'm not even saying they won't draft a quarterback, but truthfully, I've seen Trask linked to them. I've seen some of the those second round guys. To me, I would take a hard pass on those. I think you got to get one of those top four guys if you're going to get somebody, or you just fill in other positions and you wait to next year and see where how you finish and where you're picking next year. But it's what makes this fun, man. I enjoy the draft every year. And so we'll see how many we got right and how many we got wrong. We only picked 10. I debated having more, but I kind of was just figuring out time-wise where it would rank, and we're right about where I kind of want to be. So I hope everyone out there is doing great. This is part of the show where we're going to put up where you can get our follow us on social medias. So on Twitter, we're at Newman_podcast. On Instagram, at Hello Newman Sports Pod. At Facebook, just search Newman Sports Podcast. You'll find us. The show is on every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, live if you want to see our ugly mugs. And we're on most major podcast platforms the following day and the rest of the week. So whether you're listening to us live and watching us live, or you've downloaded the episode, thank you either way, and we'll see you next week. Maybe we'll if it's a quiet sports week, Jordan, we'll just do sort of maybe a post draft analysis and kind of critique how we did and where we were right and where we were wrong. So with that being said, I'm John.
I'm Jordan,
and we'll see you next Tuesday.